everyone, and welcome to MangaPod. We are a weekly podcast in which we all get together after we read all or part of a manga, and then we discuss it with friendship, love, and lots of spoilers. This week, we are talking Kokou no Hito, not Kiko no Hito. Kokou no. We were just talking about how none of us were
worked ourselves up having that convo.
None of us were able to pronounce this correctly for some bizarre reason. We are kicking off with our MangaPod Sports Madness March Madness month. Where we spend all of March talking about sports manga. And so this week we are talking about a rock climbing one, chapters 32 through 62. I'm Erin of Happily Erin, your host, and with me are two lovely co-hosts as well as a very special guest. We'll have everyone go around and introduce themselves, please.
Hi, everybody. I'm Dodger, and I'm delighted for MangaPod to be back. It's so fun, and I'm so glad that our first one back is a really good is a really good one. So yeah, excited to talk about Kokou no Hito.
Hey, I'm Lou from Lou Talks Anime, and it's been a long time, guys, and it's really welcoming and special, and I'm very happy to be back.
Yay!
Miss you guys. Miss everybody.
Yeah,
me too.
And I'm Gabby, or MyLadyGabriella, and I was on here before when we talked about it, and I'm glad to be back.
Yay! We're so happy to have you back.
Yay!
If you guys have never joined us for what? Get out of here, Octopimp. It suddenly switched back over to you hosting, and I was like,
it's been doing that. Twitch has been super wonky.
My Discord has been really wonky. This whole time,
really?
with the camera, it's been really laggy. I'm not sure. It will stop being laggy, and then it'll be okay, and then it'll be really So audio is coming through great though. So
okay,
that's the good thing.
Look, it wouldn't be a MangaPod if we didn't come back with some kind of a tech issue.
I was gonna say we came back with tech issue and baby aggros. 15 minutes late too. But yeah, if you've never joined us for a MangaPod before, what we like to do is give you a short spoiler-free description of the manga that we read, aka summary that will be read by our lovely guests, and then we will give you our spoiler-free recommendations, whether we think you should spend time going to read this manga or not. That way, if it sounds like something you are interested in and you don't want to be spoiled, you can take your leave once we get to spoiler section and then come back and watch the VOD of this later. This is one you do not want to be spoiled for. There's some stuff unexpectedly that happens. If you go into this blind, it's actually pretty good, too. So you do not want to be spoiled. So you know.
Agreed.
All right. Let's do a summary, please.
Okay.
Yeah.
Through pain and arduous effort, one can reach the top of the world. Standing where no man has ever set foot before, there is an exhilarating feeling of success. This is what Mori Buntaro trains, works, and lives for. His climb to the top starts when he transfers to a new high school. Despite his lonesome and solitary nature, Mori's classmates persuade him to climb the school building. Without a harness or hesitation, he begins his scale to reach the top. Edging past the point of no return, he halts when he is faced with a final, intimidating obstacle, a horizontal overhang. Adrenaline courses through him, and Mori jumps for the final hold at the summit. From there, he casts his eyes upon something that he normally would not have seen. Another peak, another goal. With an awakened passion and newfound purpose in life, Mori explores the breathtaking sport of rock climbing.
Boom. Thank you.
No problem.
All right. Let's do our spoiler-free recommendations. Would anyone like to go first?
Well, Dodger already, kind of said a little bit. So why don't you go first, Brooke?
That's true. Yeah, it's very good. It's from the description, it might not be obvious, but it's actually it's definitely more adult themed. It honestly, in terms of tone, reminds me a lot of Oyasumi Punpun sometimes. It makes a really, really good use of visual imagery as well as kind of helping you get into the mindset of the main character who's going through all kinds of stuff. So yeah, it's very, very good. It's much more serious than you might expect it to be. But it's lots of really, really good character development and yeah, just really, really interesting use of imagery. So I enjoy it a lot. Yeah.
I'll go next. So I really enjoyed reading this manga our first time around. And I was very excited to revisit it. And we actually had scheduled this manga before, but we had some tech issues. So this is actually our second time.
Ah, that's right.
Right.
Yeah.
This is our second time doing this batch of reading. And honestly, it was just as exciting the second time around. I really like this manga. It has a very abrasive way of telling its story, but it's so engaging at the same time. The struggles of the characters all seem very real, but like it feels like the stakes aren't being elevated too high just yet, which leaves the story room to grow. So definitely recommend this manga. It's definitely a good time.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I've been really enjoying it, and I feel like it feels like the main character is not a typical, like, it's not a cookie cutter main character, and none of the characters feel cookie cutter. It's all very original, which is what I really like about it. And they're not afraid to go serious with things. And also a lot of the way it's drawn is really detailed in certain like aspects when they draw it, and it's really, really nice. I enjoy it for sure.
Yeah, I agree with everything you guys have said. I think it's very different from most sports manga when you go into it. It's much more psychological than other ones. It's not a typical shonen at all. And I think the main character and the way they've presented his persona and his thought process and his anxiety is really fascinating. And it's as much an exploration of him as it is of like the sport of rock climbing. So I think it's very fascinating storytelling and a very fascinating subject to be told in a manga. And it's definitely not one that you go into it expecting something completely different than what you get, but what you get is still really great and exciting. So I highly recommend it, especially if you're looking for something that's a psychological thing. Like maybe you're not into sports manga, but if you're really into like psychological stuff, this is one that you would want to check out too. So
For sure.
sweet. So there you have it. We all highly recommend it, and we all, I think, agree that you don't want to be spoiled for it if you haven't read it and you're at all interested. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into, well, we are going to, not just me personally. Though, can I say before
The rest
we
of us
go,
are leaving.
Can I say before that we go into it though, Dodger, your shirt and your blanket looks like one outfit. And so I was like,
I'm wearing a ball gown tonight.
Every time I looked, I was like, "What is she?" She's. So
I mean,
fancy.
she took it to the nines, you know, for the triumphant return of MangaPod.
It's true.
It's like I've got to make myself fancy.
Look real good.
Real good. All right, we're jumping to spoiler section. Countdown, please.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
The
mountain is God.
Yeah.
Well done. Yeah.
I mean, if all the mountains are gods, then K2 is apparently Zeus, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Or the poop god.
Yeah.
Yes.
Bringing it back to Poon Poon.
Hell yeah.
Always.
Always.
Back. All right. So let's start with the question that we usually start with when we talk about manga. What were you guys expecting before going into this? Now we kind of we already all read it once before, and this is our second batch of reading of this series. But if you guys have anything additional that you would like to add to what your initial
actually, so my initial impression of Mori was that he's going to be the quiet loner badass type, and that's what the impression I got from the first batch of reading for the most part. There were some flashes of him being a reserved introvert, but it wasn't the dominant narrative when it came to his character. I feel like that's way more visible in this group of readings, and I think it makes him significantly more interesting because I'm more invested in seeing him grow as a person.
Totally.
You know, instead of being someone who's distant because they're just singularly focused on their goal. That's not the case. There are two aspects to his character. One is his love for climbing, like for the thrill of the climb. But the other is that he is a very socially awkward person, and how that social awkwardness impedes his ability to really interact with anyone. And I love how that awkwardness is bleeding into his passion for the sport and is limiting him and is creating a very high mental barrier for him to overcome.
I love that as well. Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think it's interesting how it oscillates between moments where it kind of glorifies him on his own, being one with the mountain and one with nature, and like feeling at peace because there's no other people there, but having to also have these moments where he needs to come to terms with the fact that like he can't do these big thrilling climbs that he dreams about on his own. Like at first it's a monetary thing, and then as you continue and progress in the story, it's like it's not just because of money, it's also just like you might die up there by yourself. Like you need other people. And I like how often he reflects back, because I had the same assumption, Lou, that it was going to be like one of those stories where he's just like, no, I can do it by myself, and he does.
Yeah.
Where he tries to, where he's basically Sasuke. Like that's
where he's like, I don't need anybody else because I'm a stone cold badass, and everybody's like, you are, and then he climbs the thing. End of manga, right? Like, but I like that there's so many more layers to it. I like how often, what I was gonna say is I like how often he revisits all of the really important people in his life that were like, please just rely on other people. Like, please don't be on your own all the time. Yeah, it's really interesting seeing his obsession and his anxiety and all of these other things, like how they overlap.
Yeah, because it seems like because he's very strong physically, but almost weak mentally. It's like a balance. And this time around, I definitely did feel more of the anxiety this time. For some reason, last time it felt more like he was just a loner and didn't care very much. But the second time reading it, I felt a lot more that he felt anxious and felt like he needed to break down that wall. So that was nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then it like makes it even harder when he does make the decision to speak up and voice his opinion and connect with the other climber. And it was one that got him like in trouble and kind of shunned by the other climbers because of how he made the decision to stay in the cabin instead of following orders and heading back, which is like a very fascinating too. It plays into the whole psychological thing where like what's a test and what's not a test for being able to be a successful mountain climber.
Right.
But I also love that he didn't back down from his decision. Like he's still not regretting his decision and facing the challenge of like the group shunning him.
Yeah, and I'm curious at how that's gonna this will go beyond because I haven't read past where we had, but they kept going back to when he kind of almost spoke out to the girl who was being really creepy, but then ultimately just like shut her out. And I thought it was really interesting when he was writing down everything he was thinking, and then there was like paper all around. And I'm curious if like she was reading that or what. I want to know more of that like flashback.
Yeah, we get they do a really, it's confusing, but I also
because
think
it just like swaps in like
swapping.
But I think there's something,
I thought that was the weakest part of the manga part that we read.
I think that there's some kind of like immersion in that I'm hoping they finesse a little bit more, in terms of you're in his anxiety and you're in his perspective, and that is like the jarring jumping back and forth between like realities almost is like going inside his head, but as a reader it's very confusing. Like
Yeah.
it's very hard to pull off.
Especially when it would go to like the really sexual stuff. Like all of a sudden there were just like boobs, and I was like, okay. And then the next panel didn't have boobs, and I was like, alrighty then.
Him like when she's giving him a blowjob and he like
Yeah.
just turns. What does she turn into? Like what? Is
He
she
like
a
his whole
mountain?
body turns into some
Is it
weird
the
like
mountain?
grotesque.
It was some
thing.
I think-
Akira shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
It was
think, I
really
think
like,
it's
is
him
this
turning into a
Uzumaki?
mountain.
I thought it was a mountain. Yeah.
It was him turning into a mountain.
Yeah,
That's what I
basically.
thought.
That is not how I read that at all.
Yeah, it looked grotesque, and it was like a growth from him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was so. I thought it was a mountain too. Lou, I agree.
Interesting.
Yeah.
No, to me it read very like Akira, like his body was like becoming something that he found disgusting.
Yeah,
Yes.
for sure. And maybe even like weighing him down because it was like a large mass, you know?
Yeah. I did find those moments, talking about imagery, I did find those moments really fascinating. Like when he was asked, you know, oh, what made you change your mind about joining the group? And he was like, I just can't stop thinking about mountains. But you see those
Ooh.
flashes where it's like, that's not it, you know?
Yeah.
That's not it. And also the moments where like his anxiety triggers and it's flashes of like blizzards, right? Like he feels like overwhelmed in the same way you would feel overwhelmed if you were in a blizzard.
Mhm.
I thought that all of that read so well.
Yeah.
For sure.
I agree.
Oh my god, yeah! And when creepy girl Komori, is that her name?
Yeah,
When
I don't-
creepy girl turns into a fucking what's that called? Praying mantis.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
I was like, yikes!
I don't understand the like
Guys.
connection.
Did we
but...
have? Because there's
Well,
got to
like
be something in his
the
past.
female
Yeah.
the female mantis like
Eats-
kills the male.
Yeah.
after mating.
Oh.
Yeah. And so
Yeah.
there has to be, because we haven't really, I can't remember. It's been so
Guys,
long
you wanna
since
hear
the
some-
first
you-
back.
You want
Okay.
to hear something interesting? I have a pair of mantids in my house.
Really?
I keep them as pet.
Oh.
Cute.
Yeah.
I used to trap stick bugs and stuff and keep them. What were you saying, Aaron?
I can't remember. I know that we did our first batch of reading like so long ago, and I can't remember if we got a flash of his past, because there has to be something in him that gives him a kind of like PTSD like esque thing. I feel like
With women specifically.
With women specifically,
I don't
yeah.
think there were
I don't think we've seen
flashbacks in the
anything
beginning.
of it yet, and so I'm interested just because he's had that, or maybe it's like his anxiety. Like there's something there, reaction with women, like that.
I think
has
he's
gone
just.
so
I think he's just uncomfortable
Yeah,
with
just
women, just in
uncomfortable.
general, and like
Yeah.
having two different situations that we saw specifically that were like women directly being aggressive and taking advantage of
Yeah.
him.
Yeah.
He didn't know what to do,
Mhm.
right? So
That
he
makes
saw
sense.
them as like these really scary things because
Yeah.
he just like didn't know. And maybe if they were different sorts of personalities, it would be a different scenario. But because it was like two different situations where he was like feeling like he had to be aggressive back and say
Yeah.
no
Yeah,
and couldn't, you know?
yeah,
Yeah,
that's definitely
that's
Yeah.
what I assumed.
He was
Mhm.
forced into both situations
yeah,
like
Yeah.
that he didn't want to be in.
yeah. They weren't really
Yeah.
pleasant
Mm-mm,
situations.
definitely
for him.
not.
I totally thought Secretary Girl was gonna die when he pushed her when she fell.
Yeah,
down the
I
stairs.
know.
I was like, oh shit, she dead.
I think it's so funny how she just fell, and then he's like, "Okay, time to close the door. This is my opportunity." I was like, "What?"
He's like, this is my chance.
Yeah.
And then
Um,
also, she got fired because they got caught of her.
I assume
sex
so.
with the
Yes.
That's what
Because
thought.
everybody else knew that she was having sex with the boss
Yeah.
after that.
It was just
I
like
think
it
it was
happened.
that-
I was like,
I think
okay.
that the boss was using money from the company to pay for her apartment, and that's what got her fired. Not so much that they were having sex.
Yeah, because they said
Oh.
that they were leasing her apartment.
Oh, I
Yes.
thought that was. I thought they were saying that she got fired, but the boss still had his job and was like, "Don't
yeah.
worry, baby, I'll get you an apartment." But
Yeah.
then she was like insisting on staying with Morty. So
yeah,
I
was
don't,
also
I don't know.
confused by
was
that
weird.
series
That was all
of
weird.
events.
Yeah, it felt like, I don't know. I thought the rock climbing part itself was much more interesting than that. I mean,
Yeah.
he already had the one situation happen where I didn't see that. That second one was super necessary, maybe to like other than reinforce it. But I think the rock climbing stuff is definitely the strongest portion of this. And as somebody who's never really considered rock climbing or thought anything about it, this makes it so interesting. Like whether it's like the intensity is real or not, but it really puts into perspective how dangerous it really is.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's very interesting because I recently watched, there's this documentary that like won an Oscar and stuff about Alex Honnold, which is like the first guy who free soloed Yosemite. Like it's insane. And it's interesting because I kind of see almost parallels in him and Maury, because like Alex Honnold is also someone who's very kind of like more of a loner person. He doesn't want to get attachments, but his is more like he thinks he might die, so he's like, I don't want to put that on you, which is kind of but Maury seems more like not selfish, but
he just wants to escape.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of my favorite moments for some reason is with the wallet situation, right? With the guy like taking the wallet and they get into that fight.
Right.
And Maury on his own concocts the worst case scenario.
Yeah. That freaked me out when it happened.
It was crazy. I'm gonna push you all into the
reality.
ravine, and they're all falling into the ravine, and you're like, wait, really?
Yes.
And I liked that happened because what is his name? Uishi?
What?
Because his old like sensei died, right? On the mountain.
Unashi? I feel like there
something like that.
I feel like there was an N in there somewhere.
Guys, we're not very good with names. I'm sorry.
Hold on. Unishi.
Unishi. There we go. It was a combo of both of you. Unishi. Yeah. Like he literally died trying to chase after Morty.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And Morty had that moment in the hospital being like, somebody died and I can't stop climbing.
Yeah.
And like feeling really fucked up about that, right? And I liked that we had this moment where he had said to himself, I haven't climbed with other people in 2+ years. And then the second there's any kind of a situation where things could go bad, he imagines everyone here is gonna die.
Yeah. And also like it's in a distrustful way as well, which is like kind of shows how he might view people. He just can't trust any of them because he thinks at any moment that they could turn on him.
Yeah.
Because that's the experiences he's had so far in life with like interactions, other than his sensei, and like everyone else has pretty much left him. So
yeah. What did you guys think about Nimi, long-haired man, Nini, as I like to call him?
Yes, Nanny.
Nana. Because he was introduced this round of reading as kind of the like rival for Maury, because they're both really young, both like naturally like have this the skill for rock climbing. Like Maury's whole, he has low oxygen or whatever it is.
Yeah.
That goes on for him. So what do you guys think about Nana?
I think he's interesting. One of the interesting things is that he like has his dad's ice pick because like that's his kind of driving force behind his climbing. But to me, I'm like, wouldn't that be bad luck? Like your dad died probably using that, and now you're like, this is my good luck charm. I'm like, I don't know about that.
That's fair. I hadn't thought of that, but
it did save him once.
It's one time, yes.
So there we go. Like he happened to be right.
Saved him once, killed his dad.
Used all
once.
of the good energy.
They like cancel each other out now.
It's equivalent exchange. I mean, that's what we learned from Fullmetal Alchemist, right?
Yeah,
right.
Sure.
Totally. I'm at first I was like, oh shit, this is gonna be by the law of progressing anime characters, right? This is gonna be the rival who makes him feel like, oh, I am better with other people, right? I expected him to be like the first person where Morty would be like,
they have a connection.
you're a peer. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And then I was actually really disappointed because we had the exact same dynamic again where Mommy was like, I can't lose.
Mommy.
I can't lose to this dude, right?
Yeah.
This guy's more Kuwabara than anything.
Yeah.
That's it. He's kind of like a little goofy, kind of a fuck up, but still very
capable and
capable of doing what. Yeah.
So I was like, oh, I'm kind of disappointed that we're getting the same dialogue again of like, why does the mountain accept him and not me?
But it seems that both not me.
Nami.
I said Nami. I'm reading One Piece. God damn it. But yeah, and it's interesting because him and also the blonde guy.
Yeah.
They're both very
Moneybags.
They're both aggressive, and they both seem really selfish and kind of jealous, which seems like it also wouldn't work in a team. Like no one in their team seems like they're good at like teamwork.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that's the progression we'll get.
Yeah.
Is that over time they'll like become the ultimate team, but
I don't know. That feels too light for this manga.
Yeah, I know. I agree.
Yeah.
Like with the old man being like, well, before we get to K2, we gotta drain the pus, so to speak.
Yeah.
I'm just like, who's gonna be the pus?
Yeah.
And like with the blonde guy, because he got injured on the climb too. After they killed
the head.
Yeah, after they killed Unishi, like in the first batch of reading, that just set it up that anytime something happens and hangs on a cliffhanger,
they might just die.
They might just die. Like you don't actually know, so it just makes you like freak out a little bit, and then you turn the page and you're like, he just got a little scab. Because it scabbed him on the head.
Yeah, no big deal. That didn't break any ribs, thankfully.
Yeah.
I was actually really surprised when he died.
Yeah, I really didn't.
Like he got. I thought he just got hit by some snow and maybe fell a little bit, and then somebody, I can't remember which character it was, but somebody was like, "Oh, well, unfortunately, Unishi won't be coming down the mountain on his own 2 feet."
Yeah,
and I was like,
exactly.
Oh. And then they showed the shot of him like wrapped up and like getting carried.
Yeah, and they're like, we had to like stuff his head because he head was smashed.
Yeah, his head exploded. So I was just like, fuck. Okay.
Yeah, it was brutal, and so it really set up like the tone for the rest.
Yeah, I like how that really makes every time they go climbing dangerous.
For sure.
Like that element of danger like really makes you concerned for the characters, which helps build rapport with the characters, like all of them. Because any of these characters can die at any given time.
Yeah, and it's accurate to real like ice mountain climbing. Like it's so brutal. It's insane.
Yeah.
For full context. Nice.
I saw
for full context, Gabby, you climb, right?
I do rock climb. I don't do ice mountain climbing or anything that intense. Literally inside the gym, I'll do ropes and I'll do bouldering, and outside I'll only do bouldering. That's how it goes.
Love it.
I've
always wanted to do it.
It's
I
really
love
fun.
I love like the feel of climbing up. It's getting back down that freaks me out.
Yeah, you get used to. Yeah, you get used to. I usually climb down. It's partially because it's like better for like working out if you like kind of control yourself coming down. But also like I have had an ankle injury before, so I'm always afraid to jump from like the top. So
oh gosh.
Yeah. But it's still fun. I recommend.
Yeah, it's like a really good upper body workout. It's probably a whole body.
It's a full body workout. Yeah, a lot of people mistakenly go straight for the arms, and you get tired very quickly. And if you use your legs a lot more, then it's better.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I don't think my arms would be able to keep up for very long anyway. So I think they'd give up real fast.
I would be like doing one of those things where like it feels like I'm going really high and am one step off the ground.
Yeah, you look back and
It's
like,
like,
oh.
I've got to be a mile up by now.
Yeah, just don't look down. Just
Yeah.
assume that you're that mile up and you'll be good.
Right? Yeah. Just
Yeah.
just power through.
You're fine.
Should we move on to art? Do you guys
I
have
guess, yeah.
what are your guys' thoughts about the art?
We talked about this a little bit during pre-show, so I'll bring it back. But talking about how sometimes the way that the faces are shaded, they can all seem a bit samey.
Yeah,
Like,
and all of them have like shaggy black hair. A lot of them, even the girl, like when they
Yeah.
were like really close on her face, I was like, "Is that Mori or is that her?" Like,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the like, aw, Babu.
Yeah.
Oh, look at you. Let's talk about manga, baby. Hi, buddy. Manga poops.
Manga poops.
Oh, hi, buddy.
He's
He
like-
looks like he does not want to be here.
So confused. He's like,
Um,
what is this? Oh, I know.
oh,
My heart. Oh, baby boy.
He's so
Um,
little.
Sorry.
No, you're good.
Distracted. Yeah, they just like the amount of detail they would put into the faces sometimes. Like everybody would get the same extreme amount of detail on their face.
Yeah.
Where I'd be like, now I really don't know who
yeah, and it was the worst when they all had like their gear on because
Yeah.
Mori and Nimi looked very similar with all of their gear on, especially when it was just
Yeah.
the two of them and they were talking to each other. I'm like, who is
You literally
who?
had to look
Yes.
for like the curly cues of hair coming
Yeah, it's
out.
like, does one have the bangs kind of here instead of here?
Right.
Yeah.
It's also like how they communicate with each other. That's how I was able to keep
Yeah.
track of things.
Basically.
Yeah. It was so like, yeah, you had to just I don't know how they could have fixed that because the characters all look so realistic. Like there's nothing
Yeah.
like traditionally anime about them.
Mhm.
And having like you have to have all that gear on them
Right.
to make that part realistic. And so it's just
Yeah.
a hard I'm sure the mangaka was like, where do I draw the line for this? Like, how do I do this?
Right.
Kind of thing. Dude, his
And it's not-
abs.
Yeah.
And it's not that the mangaka is incapable, because the art overall, like I would argue, is excellent. It's just
Yeah.
those specific details, it's kind of difficult. But
Yeah,
like
for sure.
also looking at other work that the mangaka has done, like this person also did Innocent, which is a extremely well done
Fantastic.
from both a narrative and a visual perspective.
Mhm.
So like the art, I think for Kokou no Hito I really enjoy it. But yeah, I could totally see those deficiencies and how it could impede a reader's ability to really digest the story.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And also it's very well drawn, even the very icky parts. Like when the vice president dude showed his like cut off toes, I was like, great.
Yeah.
I definitely wanted to see that.
Oh my gosh,
And
that part.
Many
I was
other
like,
things. Yeah, I was like, oh, it's okay.
Oh, and Nimi's girlfriend, Nude.
oh,
Yeah.
Really
Yeah.
well done panel for like something that no, I mean not
It's true.
Good tatas.
yeah, no, it's
I
quality
know what
plot.
you're saying though.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
No, but I mean
cleavage.
for something that was just kind of like a throwaway panel,
Mhm.
you know,
Yeah.
like there was so much detail put into that, and like the perspective was really well done, and you like
Oh yeah.
the proportions of her character from that downward angle made total sense.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And
Definitely.
like his anxiety, Maury's, is displayed so well through the art, and like it's one of the things that makes the manga so easy to read. Is because there's a lot of visual storytelling in it.
Yeah.
So it's like quick, you're kind of just skimming through because there's a ton of stuff that doesn't even have dialogue on it. You're just
Yeah, a
going
lot
through
has to do
his
with like
emotions.
the composition of the way it's drawn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so like you just get immersed into the scenes, like with the praying mantis and like stuff, his anxiety when the girl comes to the door and all of that. You're still just like, I'm feeling all of this at the same time as you are, and that's because of how visually well done the stuff is.
When he climbs into his sleeping bag and turns into a shell.
Yeah.
Those sort of moments remind me so much of Poon Poon. Just like the way that he visualizes himself in that moment and how he's trying to close himself off to the situation because he's so uncomfortable. Like,
I'm looking forward to the chapters when he turns into a floating triangle.
Those are going to be great.
The best Poon Poon face.
Yeah, and also when like they show him like all kind of balled up in the corner in his apartment, and then it goes straight into him on the mountain like all balled up as well.
Yeah.
When it splits like that.
Nice. Yeah, I also loved how consistently. Sorry, this isn't specifically about art, but I loved how consistently they would remind us that he's always training for mountain climbing.
Yep.
Like with the I loved that she gave him a lunchbox.
Oh yeah.
And he was like, I'm so hungry. And your first assumption is, oh, he's not eating it because he doesn't want to give her the wrong idea. So he doesn't have anything to eat. He's hungry, but he's not going to eat her lunch that she made. Right. And then he's like, I haven't eaten in 5 days. So you're like, I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, he's like, I eat one piece of chocolate and water every day. And I was like, that is, I don't know if that's a good way to train, but okay.
But all right. Okay. Yeah.
You approach that how you want.
Yeah. It's like everything is about mountain climbing.
Yeah.
For him. The carrying, I'm just like always so impressed when he's just carrying all of those waters and stuff.
Yeah.
Like,
he carries them constantly. It's so funny.
Yeah.
And also with like all the packages when he was like looking really angry and is holding his arms and he was just
like, such a good scene.
Yeah.
The like two old people like, oh look, he's carrying all the stuff just like the normal, but we'll leave him to it.
Oh, and when he almost snapped his ankle.
Oh my god.
Like going up that trail. Like I winced. I'm like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Shit. His smile is probably the best smile in any sports manga that we've ever gotten.
Well, there were like one or two genuine smiles when he's like doing his daydreaming stuff, but then like when he was trying to smile, he just like goes down. He's like, that's his like trying to be nice.
Yeah, when his boss was like, "Come on, let's go eat," and he's like, "I would love to." You're just like, "Oh, Bobby."
It's like, you poor thing.
Yeah,
you
that
try.
Was a thing.
Oh my goodness. Should we go around and do final thoughts and ratings, or do you guys have anything else you'd like to add?
Nah, I think I'm good.
I think I'm good.
Who would like to go first? Anybody?
Not it.
I'll go first.
Okay,
I'll
do
go first.
it.
All right, so I really like this manga. Apart from the minor nitpicks of the art, I think it's like visually really appealing. From a distance, and I have to qualify this, from a distance, all the characters look very unique and different from each other.
Right.
Like the mangaka has a very strong sense of how things shift as perspective is changed. And I think that adds a lot of depth to the art. From a narrative standpoint, I like that there's a shift in his character where while it's not growth, we're seeing more of his vulnerabilities, which is creating room for growth. Overall, I just had an excellent time reading this, and I want to continue reading it.
Oh, yeah.
I know the last time that we had an episode on this, Yoku ended up reading the whole thing afterwards. Like we ended the show, and then he read the entire thing. And ever since then, he's had a picture of Modi as his avatar.
Yeah.
So that kind of like leads me to believe that this ride is going to continue to be a quality trip. So I'm going to give it an 8.5 out of 10. I do think that while the foundation has been solid thus far, that's all we've really gotten is that the foundation for where the story is going to go. So I think after after giving this manga a little bit more time, that that we'll see some real legitimate change, and that change is going to be where the real enjoyment from this manga is going to come. So an 8.5 out of 10, leaning towards a 9. So it, like, when I say it's an 8.5, like, that's a good rating, but like, that's me trying to give it room to improve, you know?
Yeah, I get that. Yeah, I think that I probably gonna give it a 9 out of 10. Like, you're leaning, I'm kind of there, mainly because I think it's, so far it feels so unique. The all the characters and the storytelling is stuff that I haven't seen before, and I haven't read as many manga things as you guys have. But for me, I'm really, even though it is a very, like, the base of characters, I'm already pretty invested, and I'm very, very interested in where they're gonna go, and I want to learn more. So I'm definitely gonna probably finish this after we're done.
Is it completed?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It ended in 2012.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Cool. I think, yeah, I'm around an 8.5 as well. I'm very invested in Mori as a character and watching him grow. And not just be like successful, but I'm interested in seeing what other failures he encounters and how he grapples with those. And I just think from the writing perspective, both in the visual and the like dialogue and stuff, the storytelling is so top tier, well done, and you're just immersed in this world of mountain climbing that you never would have thought would have been an interesting thing for a manga to do. But yeah, the whole tone, the characters, their motivation, the exploration of their minds is very interesting and different from, like, unique as well, I think. And I think it's very well done as well. I think, like, the anxiety, sometimes with his anxiety panic episodes can be kind of hard to negotiate, which is not negotiate, differentiate between what's real and what's happening. And so that I think hopefully will be improved on, but the art is fantastic. I love this manga so much. So I'm very excited, like Luce said, to see where the story ends up going, because this feels like the starting point. So I'm going to give it 8.5 as well.
I love your baby squeaks.
I'm getting baby squeaks over here. I love them too. I'm just like, I want these forever.
I love it. Mine's like over here trying to actually say words now.
Oh.
Very different from the starting squeaks, but still very fun. So I'm like, oh, the squeaks. I remember the squeaks. Yeah, I was going to say that I would give it an 8 or an 8.5 because, yeah, honestly, my favorite part of this manga is the exploration into Mori's character. Yes. I think like I was saying before, I think his dynamic between him and other mountain climbers it's interesting, but I want there to be more there. And I really hope that with this group that he's with now, that they all kind of grow together. I would like to see some focus on the growth of other people beyond just, dang old Mori, why is he such a good mountain climber? He's weirdo, right? Like, I want more than that. But I think the art is really great in a lot of points. And the general feel for who Mori is in the moment is done so well, and you really understand how he's feeling every step of the way, which is difficult to do, and I think it's done so well. So I'm excited to read more, for sure. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, that wraps up our discussion about Kokou no Hito. If you guys would like to check it out, definitely go and do so. We'll for sure be coming back to it, revisiting it on a future MangaPod. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to read the summary for the manga that we are reading next week. My mic is right in the way, and I don't have my glasses on, so this is an adventure.
I love all of these things.
This is great. All right, you guys get to guess it in the chat. All right. It is a divine ritual, a martial art, a combat sport. It's blank. A small new student, blank, appears before the weak little blank of Odachi High School. The words big and heavy are the rules to the sport, which does not fit the newbie any inch, but this guy goes and does What? Ushio and the small blank climbs to the way to its top. The goal is the blank. A fired up high school blank tale. No retakes allowed.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah. Whoop whoop. Sumo.
Burzen got part of it. Yeah.
Sumo. Hinomaru Sumo.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good. I'm so excited. So stoked.
I know.
So we
I love
are
it
going
too,
to be
man.
reading.
It's so good.
It's so great. We're going to be reading Hinomaru Zumo chapters 74 through 106, volumes 9 through 12. So that is what we will be discussing next week. If you guys haven't been reading Hinomaru, now is your chance. You got a week to catch up. It goes real quick, and it's awesome. Just awesome.
I love how we started reading it because of like the crossover chapter with Kuriko, and now it's just this manga just.
And now we're like, this
love
is
this
the
manga.
good shit. More sumo. Let's read more sumo stuff.
Always more sumo. The anime is really great too.
The anime's been pretty good, yeah.
It's been pretty good. Yeah, so that's next week. Should we go around and outro ourselves real quick? I'm Erin at Happily Erin. I have a YouTube channel. I'm not super active. The manga pods are posted there. You can also find my anime reviews, first impressions, and all that fun stuff that I've done in the past. They still, the anime's relevant still, too. I am currently working on a book, which is why I haven't been super active on there. And you can find all my shenanigans with writing and new babies and Dragon Prince, which is what I'm really into now.
Yeah.
You can find all that on Twitter, where I'm much more active, and it's Happily Erin there and all across the everything. So that's me.
I'm Dodger. You can find me at Dex Bonus on pretty much everything, and I stream nearly every day. So if you'd like to come play games and drink coffee and talk about nonsense and see my baby sometimes, feel free to come hang out.
Yeah.
I don't
So
know.
no.
We were quiet for a while.
No, it just lagged for me for a second. Okay. So my name's Lou, and I'm from a YouTube channel called Lou Talks Anime, where I don't post content regularly, but I have a new anime podcast that we have a few episodes done. I'm doing this podcast with a friend of the show, Dakota Broski, and it's called The Anime Hour. So you can check us out at youtube.com/The Anime Hour Podcast. So far, we have about 4 episodes up, and we've had Holden as a guest. We've had Dee from Revel House as a guest. And we've had Baron J as a guest. And on Friday, we're going to be posting an episode featuring Jean from Anime Appraisal. Nice. You guys may know her
Jean's
from
great.
Potaku.
She's awesome.
So, yeah, very excited about this project. So please, if you're looking for an anime podcast, consider checking us out. And as for my Twitter, that's at LouTalksAnime. And it was good. I miss doing this. I need to emphasize. I love MangaPod.
Yeah, I'm so excited that we're back.
Me too.
That's my stuff.
Woo. I am MyLadyGabriella on everything. I stream on Twitch. Currently, I'm playing Persona 5. That's Mondays and Wednesdays mainly. And I also am a cosplayer. So if you check me out on Instagram, see lots of anime stuff there. And I'm also quite active on Twitter. So those are the places to find me. And also, me and my friends are starting back up our anime podcast that we did a while back. It's called Daijobu Podcast. You can check it out on YouTube, but I'll also definitely post about it on Twitter. We're starting it back up. So it should start, we'll post something new, next week, probably, hopefully. So there's that. That's my stuff.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on again. We love having you. Yeah, you're awesome. We'll have to have you back for more Kokou.
Yeah.
Woohoo. Thank you all so much. If you're watching this on Twitch, thank you. If you're watching this later on YouTube, thank you so much for watching. We will be here same time, same place next week, 7:30 p.m. Central Time, talking sumo manga. Chapter 74 to 106. So we will see you guys then. Bye.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
I just had a thought with the